Cheers. Hey guys, welcome to the Sol Sistas. I'm Aisha Nesu Ani.
And I am Rhonda Osset Wright.
And we are so excited to be here for our very first YouTube video. Guys, this is a long road coming, right?
It has been.
But you know, nothing before its time and everything in its divine time. And so we are excited to be here with you. We have an awesome video for you today. We're talking about are women really struggling to get along? And then we're also going to talk a little bit about finding your soul tribe because I think that is so important as we navigate our life journey, having our soul tribe there to support us. And so, yeah, before we get started, if you're new here,
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that button.
yes, because we're going to have new videos coming every week. If you're into expansion, if you're into spirituality, if you're into sisterhood,
If you're into imagination, what is possible, purpose, healing, sharing.
and definitely if you're into reconnecting with your inner child, then this is the channel for you. And we're going to have content coming out every week where we're talking about a lot of different topics, a lot of different things. And yeah.
We're excited that you are joining us. Please have your tribe join our tribe.
I'm just laughing because it sounds no. It just sounds like you said have your tribe join our tribe. It's almost like have your agent call my agent.
Mm.
But anyways, today's video, we're going to be talking about the nuance with men and do we get along, do we not get along, all that good stuff. And we're going to share tips or things that we found that has helped us to be able to navigate that whole concept or misconception. Because let's just be clear, both myself and Rhonda disagree, or should I say we disagree?
We don't support that stereotype or that narrative.
It doesn't align with what we believe as far as what we as women are capable of. So there's that. And then we're going to get into finding your soul tribe. Are you ready to get into it?
Let's get into it.
Awesome. The first thing we want to talk about is the fact that there is this programming, which we will refer to as the matrix. It's like the construct, the multiple tentacles of the construct that we operate under for the most part as a collective. Like, obviously there are persons that are living outside of the matrix. But based on the construction, they come and they drop these little programs every now and again that they want us to, download, if you want to call it that. And this whole idea that women can't get along is one of those programs that they've literally dropped in, and it's been perpetuating for decades now. And I love that I'm seeing that more women are dismantling that belief system. More women are coming together. We're building communities. We're building empires. We're even restructuring how we look at family. And a lot of things are happening now that we have started to resist. And I wouldn't even say resist. We've started to reframe just the whole idea that we can't get along.
So I agree with you. And I think it has a lot to do with us coming into our own, with us becoming more comfortable with ourselves, with us strengthening our relationship with self.
Yes.
Because that is really where it all begins. And beginning to recognize, see, and accept other women as our reflection, a reflection of ourselves.
100%.
And in doing that, it allows us to be more accepting, more loving, more understanding, more patient, and allows us to unite differently and not feel a sense of being threatened or
having to compete,
right?
Yeah.
We are collaborating, understanding that it's about collaboration, returning to the concept of community in its truest sense, which is allowing us to interact in our authentic way.
Right. We're going to share some of the ways that we can start to live a new narrative, which is that we do get along. We do love on each other. We do support each other. We do empower each other. And when you see women together you know that something powerful is happening. It's happening. It's not about to happen. When women are together, something powerful is in the making. It is happening in that moment. And for me, it's been an unraveling process. I mean, I've never been a person that would automatically see someone and feel like, oh my gosh, I don't get along with them or I don't like them. However, I've been on the opposite end of that. Like I have most of my life been a person that people have decided that they just were not going to like, right? And it's never really bothered me because quite frankly, you not liking me has nothing to do with it. But I've seen through relationships that have literally gone from that part of the spectrum to the opposite end of the spectrum where these people who once disliked me for whatever reason, once they got to know me, once I got to know them, we were able to build relationship. And then they realized that, you know, really made no sense that I disliked you for no reason. And so I've had those type of conversations more than one time over the years. And it's made me realize, and then going from that example, like from my school years and then going into the work environment and again, having these experiences with people who, you know, they're upset about the fact that you even just exist. There are those people, right? So we're not here saying that we're now in a society where we're all getting along and we're all happy go lucky and everything is great and dandy and perfect. But what we are saying right now is we can change the narrative. We can actually change the way we interact and the way we live. There are things that you can apply into how you think and how you move, how you communicate, how you relate with others. And like Rhonda said, first, it starts with how you relate with yourself. Because most of the times when we are in a state of whether it's dislike, annoyance, um, jealousy, or any of those types of feelings, most of the times it's because it's some insecurity we have within ourselves. In fact, not most, all of the time, every single time, it's because of some inner insecurity or some inner feeling of lack, feeling of unworthiness to some level. And so there are some things that we have both been actively practicing in our lives to allow us to have these types of relationships with both myself and Rhonda, as well as with other soul sisters that we have individually as well as collectively. We're going to share some of those things with you guys right now.
Let's do them. I think it's also important for us, after we've talked about that, to share or remind our tribe, our soul sister tribe, our viewers, our listeners, that there are different types of relationships, right? So soul sister doesn't mean that, oh, we're here talking, but together all the time. We're on the phone all the time. No, we know that, seasons change, things change, but that does not mean that that's still not your soul sister. So we can talk about this as well.
Okay, so we're going to now get into what I would call practices or habits that you can start to implement to nurture the belief that we can get along as women and to completely dismantle that narrative that we are struggling to get along. So we're not struggling to get along. We're getting along very well, aren't we?
Yes. And I wouldn't say belief. I would say the fact, the reality that we can get along. As with any relationship, though, there are things that you need to bring to the table, and that's what we're going to share.
Absolutely. So good stuff.
So the things that I would put on the table, we kind of alluded to it at the beginning, and that is that you want to start with yourself, looking in the mirror, being honest about you, being honest about who you are, what you want, what you're great at, what triggers you, your strengths, etc. Almost doing a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Not that technical, but you understand what I'm saying. It's just looking in the mirror and being truthful about your reflection, truthful about the things that you know you need to work on, what you bring to the table, what you don't. With any relationship, that is important.
And that should be where you spend most of your time because once you can truly look in the mirror and be honest with yourself, that's like half the battle.
Absolutely.
Right there.
Absolutely. It truly is. It really is. And looking in the mirror, being honest with self, that takes me to the second point, which is then being willing and able to be honest with your soul sister. Because when you are able to be honest with self, it makes it then easier to extend that same trait, right?
Right.
That same behavior in your relationships. So that is important. The other thing I would say is communication. And this can be one and the same, but really it's a separate thing because there should be patience in that communication as well. Mm-hmm. So that can actually be a separate trait, bringing patience to the relationship, but definitely strong communication, open communication, honest communication. That is a big, big deal for me in multiple ways because I've had interesting experiences in that regard because I'm very direct and blunt and honest about how I feel. I wear how I feel on my sleeve. I'm not always able to mask that, which comes back to my honesty. I wear my honesty as well. That's not always a good thing, but that's my reality. And so knowing yourself, I know that about myself, mm-hmm. right? Then being honest in your relationships, being willing to communicate and communicate through the good and the bad. And just because there is something that's happening that may not be comfortable does not mean that there is, this relationship is deteriorating or there's a problem. It just means that you need to talk through that in whatever way works for you and that person. Right. And then being patient. That is also important. Patient because there are so many things that we're all dealing with. So many scenarios, circumstances. Sometimes it has to do with each other. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the other person, with your soul sister. Mm-hmm. And so being patient to give that friend time to come to you or vice versa, or not, giving them the time needed for them to communicate. And then when they do communicate, allowing them to do that in a way that may be best for them. So again, that comes back to patience. Those are just a few things that I would put on the table.
Right. And I would add to that, holding space. Society teaches us that we have to be transactional with our relationships. But I think that for sure, there's value when you know your friend or your soul sister or your partner, your kid, whoever it may be. Because even though we're talking about our soul sisters or we're talking about relationships with women, you can always expand that into just relationships in general, and how you interact with people in general. And so building an awareness to be able to hold space for another person is important. Like Rhonda spoke on, you don't know what the person is going through at any given time. You don't know. Give the example because we kind of spoke about this earlier, just for us to be transparent and honest. We've had this conversation earlier today as we were preparing to record this video. And so I gave the example of sometimes we all living in our own worlds. We all have our own things happening. I may come to you on cloud 9 and you may be on cloud 2 or cloud 3 or cloud 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You may be on every cloud except cloud 9, right? Mm-hmm. So in just coming to you from where I'm at, being unaware of where you're at, there could be disconnect. And it could be good disconnect, it could be unpleasant disconnect. We don't know. But in my awareness or in my ability to hold space, I then don't take what's happening with me and you personal. I don't carry, any type of feelings about, I was celebrating this thing and I came to you and you weren't able to celebrate that with me. Because these are things that happen. Sometimes people talk about, and you hear it all the time, be careful of the friends that don't celebrate you, or pay attention to this one who doesn't do this and do the next thing and all these other things, right? But people shit going on. Like for real. There are things that people are going through. And it's not that they're not happy for you. It's not that they don't feel excitement for you. It's not that they don't feel joy or love or with all these other things. They may just be distracted in the moment by whatever it is they're going through. So holding space allows for you to, whether you're being empathetic, whether you are accepting just what's happening in this moment, and at a later time, you and your sister friend, y'all have an opportunity to have that conversation without you being in your feelings. So that's the clear thing about holding space for someone, is that you're not doing it from a place of judgment. You're doing it from a place of, I accept and I love this person, which takes me to the next point, which is moving from heart center. A lot of times, again, matrix programming, we are operating in our masculine. We're operating from logic and our mind, our mental. Our brain is doing a lot of the work for us versus our hearts. when it comes to this particular narrative about women not getting along, I think that is like the most powerful thing we could do is to move from heart center and think what Jesus does. Because he's like one of the greatest teachers when it comes to loving your neighbor as you love yourself. But that then goes back to Rhonda said, is that you first have to know self. You have to know self. And in knowing self, let me just add to this point, Rhonda, because this is probably another conversation for another video for another day. But let's know ourselves. We don't like what we know about ourselves. A lot of us don't like ourselves. You have to learn to like and to love yourself. And again, that goes from going into heart center because the more you go into heart center, the more you feel that compassion. You know what I mean? The more you feel the empathy, you feel the love and that unconditional love, that love where it doesn't even matter. I just love you. Operating from that heart center, it just changes the dynamic. It changes everything. Like we lay our hearts on the table as much as, we lay everything else on the table, be different. The last thing that I would want to bring to the table, that's something that we would benefit from as it relates to neutralizing and dismantling the belief that women don't get along and creating a new narrative that we indeed do get along. I think acceptance is another big thing, removing the expectations we have and put on each other, which in a lot of instances leads to disappointment because most of us have such high expectations of other people and what we expect them to bring to our life, how we expect them to make us feel, and all of those things when we can't deliver ourselves. I mean, most of us haven't gotten to that space where everything that we expect of others, we can provide for ourselves. We're just not there. And so to have an expectation of someone else to me is unfair. If we come with acceptance, I accept what you bring as a soul sister, as a woman, as an aunt or a mother or a daughter, because these relationships with women span not just friendships, right? But that acceptance is going to change the way we relate with each other.
I agree. My transparency is that is something I have to work on. That is something I have to work on because I'm absolutely not perfect. None of us are.
None of us are perfect. We're all imperfectly perfect.
Imperfectly perfect. When you feel that you are bringing so much, or you are intending to bring so much, you give so much, sometimes it's difficult to not expect the same in return. But it is someone who you hold space for, who you care about, who you consider your tribe. That is definitely something that I have to continue to work on to ensure that whether to be who I am, regardless of what comes to me.
Yes.
And as you said, to simply ask.
Yes.
It's definitely a continuous everyday work in process.
Yes. And that's for me as well. That's for me as well. Because again, these are not things that we have been taught. This is not how we were taught to relate with each other. In fact, it's the opposite. We were taught to hold that grudge because that person didn't show up in the way that we wanted them to. We were taught that it's absolutely okay to cut someone off because you have a disagreement with them. In fact, the new trend now is I value my peace so much that I'm willing to just, how does it go? It's on social media now. Everything is about protecting your peace, and don't get me wrong, you definitely should do that. But the narrative is in such a way that it's encouraging people to not tolerate anything from anyone. And it's not encouraging us to consider each other, understand each other, to empathize with each other. You understand? So
that cut-off culture, what do they call it? There's a particular term.
Well, no, they have the cancel culture.
Yes.
Cancel culture is more so like for celebrities and that sort of thing. But this is more so where people are like, oh, no matter who it is, if I don't want to misconstrue it, but let us know in the comments because I'm sure you guys know exactly what we're talking about. Let us know in the comments if you know what we're talking about as it relates to the new culture, about how people are interacting. And it's not even just a woman on woman thing now. It's like a man versus woman thing. It's like, oh, just cut them off. If they say the wrong thing, cut them off. If they do the wrong thing, cut them off.
which means that we are not taking the time to communicate or to be patient.
Yes.
Which is different from the scenario where you recognize that you may love this person, but I have to love you differently.
Yeah.
I have to love you from a place. I have to take space from you,
Yes.
or whatever the case. That's different from just cutting off a relationship without giving it an opportunity to speak about whatever.
Yes, 100%. Because what we're saying here is that in order to shift the narrative and to transform that, we have to add some steps into in there in between the cutoff. Do some work. It's in one African tribe, love is symbolized through an axe or pick or something like that, which means that you literally have to labor for love. And not laboring for love is not necessarily a hard thing if you are doing this from heart center. It's like there is unconditional love that you are giving out and that you're receiving. We want to start to look at and teach ourselves ways that we actually can relate and get along, women with women, as well as women with men, and us with each other. That's what we're talking about.
So these are some of the behaviors. We'll repeat them just so we make sure you don't forget. Write it down, and then also put in the comments the things that you think we have to bring to the table to practice, so that our relationships with our sisters are strengthened and we continue to grow together in community, in love, right? So we talked about knowing ourselves. That's where it begins. We talked about honesty, being honest with ourselves, being honest with our sisters, communication and patience, kind of, going together, but communication and patience. And Aisha talked about heart center.
Well, holding space,
coming from a heart centered space, and then acceptance. So those are a few of our thoughts. Let us know what your thoughts are as well.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've discussed some of the practices that you can bring to the table to help you to relate better with other women and other people in general, we're going to talk a little bit about your soul tribe, how you can find your soul tribe. But before we get into that, we're just going to talk about what is your soul.
And the fact that you can have many soul tribes.
Mhm.
There's not just one soul tribe. Because when we say that, you may naturally think, well, this is my soul tribe, these are my people, these are my girls, and that's it. The reality is you can have many soul tribes over the journey of your life, right?
So let's talk about, so you have your soul tribe can be people that you connect with through your interests. That's one type of soul tribe. I love CK dramas. You love CK dramas. We are. So you're my people, you're my soul tribe. We connect on that level, right? And then you can have your soul tribe that it goes a little deeper, and these are people that you have an energetic match to. Some people say that people from, and I can attest to this personally because I'm a Sagittarius and I have so many close friends that are Sagittarius. Like we all have birthdays, days, and weeks apart. And that's another version of my soul tribe. These are people that on an energetic level, we have a lot of similar characteristic traits, a lot of similar things we're interested in. We approach life in a similar type of way. That is just an example of how you can connect with people on an energetic level. And then you also have your soul tribe that can be people that you travel with on a soul level. Could be your soul family, people that you do life with, lifetime after lifetime. If you're someone that believes in the reincarnation, even the fact that we're quantum beings and we have multiple lives happening at once. These are people that are in these different life lines with us, and that's on a like deep, deep level. And we can get into that some more. But we just want you to know that soul tribe is not one thing. Most things in life, it ain't one thing.
You pick up or create or develop soul tribes as you move from one season or one time frame in your life to the next. I have a soul tribe that represents every major aspect of my life, whether it's high school, university, college, my sorority, your work life. And so you connect with people because you are like-minded, and that relationship continues throughout, not just during that time, but beyond that time when you initially, or reason that you initially connected.
Then you have that frequency match. You're like your soul tribe of people that sometimes when you're together, you think in the same things. You don't even have to speak because you connect even telepathically. There's that frequency match as well with people who are your soul tribe.
Absolutely. It could be cultural, it could be spiritual. In the Bahamas, many people would say it's based on religious affiliations. So your soul tribe comes for different reasons at different times.
We're going to talk about how you can attract your soul tribe. If you're someone that feels like you're alone in this world, or if you're someone that feels like you want to be supported, or you want to have that community, you may not know what are some of the things that you can do to kind of manifest that into your life. And so we're going to give you a few things that you can just bring to the table.
Yeah. And one of those things would be remembering that you will attract your tribe based on your vibe, right? And that goes back to something that we talked about earlier, and that's knowing yourself. Where are you? What is it that you really want? How do you want to be supported at this season of your life? And in doing that, it will help you to formulate thoughts around how you can create or attract that soul tribe and that community. Earlier this year, for example, as I am a woman in the business of wellness, so is Aisha. I formed a Women in Wellness tribe. And so there are a group of women that we come together to support each other professionally as well as on a personal level. Oftentimes we put ourselves in the back burner. So that's just one example of how what I was vibing on at the beginning of this year, wanting to be connected to more women who would be able to relate to some of the things that we deal with as women in wellness. Right. I created the tribe, or I should say I created a space where that tribe could come together and connect. And that may be something that you would want to do as well. So again, knowing what your vibe is, where you're at, what you want, what you need, how you desire to be supported. And that vibe is what's going to help you to attract or create your tribe. Spend time with yourself, getting to know what your vibe is so that you can attract your tribe.
Awesome. And I 100% agree. The second thing, as alluded to, once you've already identified with yourself, what is it that you are desiring for yourself in this season, and who are the type of people that you want to connect with, who are the type of people that I don't want to say want in your soul tribe. I feel like finding your soul tribe or attracting your soul tribe is a very organic and authentic process, but you can put yourself out there to make it happen. I don't want to say quicker, but
it will still happen in divine time, but you are creating more opportunity.
Yes, exactly. So you want to put yourself out there to create the opportunity to meet people that can be a part of your soul tribe. We put ourselves in boxes, or we are too afraid to go out and introduce ourselves to new people, to talk to new people. And that's at a disservice to us. That's at a disservice to yourself. And another thing I think to help to find or attract your soul tribe is to be willing to go to the places where you think those people will be, and um, challenge yourself, because we could be very comfortable being in our own little worlds, in our own little spaces. And a lot of times we complain about not having that support or not having the soul sisters, but that is on the same note, we are not as willing to
take the uncomfortable, inspired action, like my sister Aisha would say, to get out there.
Yes.
And meet them.
Yes. So, good point.
And so, beautiful point. I like that. And you and I talked about that earlier in the year, getting out there to be more involved with certain organizations.
And that's a work in progress, even for us.
The third thing that we want to share with you is to not miss the signs. And so, what does that mean? Oftentimes, again, back to expectations. We talked about that, right? Yes. We have already decided the type of person or what we want them to look like, how we want them to be, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But we're so fixed on that is who we want that to be that sometimes we may miss when that spirit angel or that guardian angel or that soul sister is in our presence, showing up in a different package than what we expected. Yeah. And so it's important to not miss the signs. Sometimes you may be sitting right next to somebody who strikes up a conversation and you never know where that's going to go. That may very well be your soul sister sitting right there that you can create a beautiful relationship with. But because she isn't showing up or looking like the individual or the idea, the idea that you desire, that you prefer, you may dismiss her. And so don't miss the signs, because sometimes these beautiful people who are intended to be in our life, even if it's only for a season, are in our presence already, or we come across them, but we're not in tune. And so we may miss the sign. Look out for the signs and try your best to remain open, not to be closed off.
Yes.
To remain open.
And look for the magic.
Yes, I like that. Look for the magic.
Yes, I love it, Rhonda. And the last thing that we can leave, I'm sure there are other points that we can touch on moving forward, but I think the last thing for right now is to be okay with where you are and trust the process. A lot of times when we make a decision that, we want something, we get into right now mode. We get into that microwave mentality where it should happen overnight, but be okay with, wherever you are right now on your journey or in terms of your relationships. Maybe you're mending old relationships or you're building new relationships. Wherever you are, be okay with that and put in the work. Use some of the practices that we've brought to the table in order to help you be a better version of you first and foremost.
That's where it starts.
Yes, be that better version of you. Love on yourself. You know what? We are going to talk a lot about the inner child on this channel. And I think that should be the very first member of our soul tribe. And literally, that inner child is our soul.
Absolutely.
So be okay with where you are. Spend the time, nurture your soul, and trust that in that divine time, you will absolutely attract your soul tribe.
Absolutely. And that means that you have to be okay with being vulnerable. Now, we didn't say that earlier, but that is something else that's good to bring to the table. A willingness to be vulnerable. Be gentle, vulnerable with yourself, as well as with those who you come to trust. And as you walk that journey of them becoming your soul tribe, your soul system.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I think that's it.
If you've made it to the end of this video, let us know in the comments what your biggest takeaway is from the video. And if you have any thoughts or ideas about things that we should talk about on our future videos, let us know that in the comments as well.
We want to thank you for watching. We appreciate you being here. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Share it with your friends, your families. Invite others to join the tribe. We'll see you next time.